really quick is just like, look, you're free to do porn, but I think you got to understand that my personal view is I don't think it's impossible for a girl who's been involved in that kind of industry to get a guy to get married. It's clear.
What if they change?
It's not about change. It's just like, that's your history.
You don't think I think a woman can become a better version of herself even if they went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What about women who've been like sex trafficked and stuff? They can be better women.
You can't compare that at all. No, actually, that is deeply insulting.
No,
can't even bring that up.
We're not going
but
there.
it's just like, don't judge people who've had a lot of sex. Some people, like, I didn't even know what I was getting into whenever
I was
porn.
Well, actually, no, I will judge people who have had a lot of sex.
Okay.
In the same way that women judge men for a vast list of criteria when it comes to selecting them to potentially be a romantic partner, men are also allowed to have preferences, standards, and boundaries.
But I'm not saying men versus women. Well, I'm saying I wouldn't judge someone.
But it's like, there's always this like, oh,
but
why
you would though.
But it's always this, hold on, it's always this thing with like, oh, why are men so judgmental about body count, or women who do this or who do that? Y'all are super fucking judgmental about a myriad of things that matter to you, like a guy's height, a guy's success, there's a guy's penis size. There's a million fucking things that y'all care about.
I guess that's valid.
And that's, for you, that's preferences. But if a man has a preference, that's discrimination. That's judgment. That's somehow wrong.
Okay.
So anything that comes to the detriment of women when it comes to the dynamics between men and women, if a man has a preference, that's frowned upon.
And I think it's imperative to understand, sitting here listening to y'all have a very deontological view. What that means is y'all view shit as right or wrong, fair, unfair. And the reality is, men have a value system. We have things that we want our women to do. We have things that we don't want them to do, and things that we're naturally attracted to. Our brains work in a way to where certain things trigger us. It triggers our disgust factor sexually. And the thought of a woman being ramrodded by a whole bunch of dudes, sucking a whole bunch of dicks, come on the face, all kind of shit, that's not something that we take pride in knowing that our woman does. That's not something that
that's your personal opinion.
But what I'm saying,
it's not personal opinion.
It's not a personal opinion, because if I run a survey right now, I can find thousands of dudes who feel the same way, and I'll find more men who feel the way I feel than men who don't.
So the majority don't exist.
But that's what he's saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm painting a picture of what's normal and what's abnormal. Being a porn star is morally reprehensible. That's why you're getting all this criticism and judgment.
How are you shaking
and at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if you're going to do something, people are going to judge you for it. People are going to criticize you for it. So to think you should live in a world where you won't receive any criticism or judgment, you're not being realistic.
I never said I wouldn't receive criticism. Like, I would judge a man if he hasn't had enough sex.
But you sitting here saying you sitting here saying you're being very judgmental, and you kept highlighting that you're being very judgmental. You're being mean about it.
But I wouldn't be mean towards him. I just wouldn't fuck him.
No, I'm talking about talking to the girls on the panel. You keep hinting at being judgmental. That tells me
because they are judgmental.
Exactly, but that's reality. That's what comes with the territory.
And I can't call them out on that? Go ahead.
You can, but that's not going to change it, because you're essentially doing what they're doing. Y'all just virtual signaling back and forth.
You're literally just like narrating this whole podcast and what it's about.
Because you can't understand. You cannot seem to grasp it.
I understand.
You're doing nothing but virtue signaling back and forth. Oh, don't judge me. What about you? It's the same thing. You're engaging in the same thing. And what I'm saying is, anything that you choose to do, you have to deal with the consequences of your actions. You're not going to agree with everything.
Consequences, but I think that you guys just have a fundamental opinion in what is, like, a fundamentally different opinion in what is morally right and wrong than what I have in my life. And I feel like you guys personally attack me for the way that I live my life.
Okay,
but there's a consensus. But we can move.
I don't think there's a consensus.
It doesn't matter. There is a consensus.
Guys, but not in the whole world.
No, there's a consensus in the whole world. There's a consensus.
Yes, there is. Just by saying you have a lot of sex, but then you're over here saying, "Oh, I'm not going to be with someone who doesn't have a lot of sex."
Yeah, that's
literally the same thing.
And there's a consensus. I asked you how much your husband or your boyfriend makes, because
how much do you make?
Hypocrite. I'm sorry.
How much do you make?
That's none of your business.
Then don't ask me.
I asked you how much does your husband make.
How much does your husband make?
Oh, my boyfriend makes enough. Trust me.
How much?
My boyfriend makes definitely well over 6 figures. So.
But how much?
That's none of your business.
Then don't ask me.
Okay, but you're over here talking about how you are not judging anything. But if a man did not make 6 figures, you probably wouldn't be with him.
That's correct. No, that is
correct. Thank you. I never said that.
That's
my point.
Thank
you.
Right.
And so you have a preference too.
I never said I didn't have a
So
preference.
why are you like living
I'm
in a
not
reality?
be
why,
mean towards
why
someone
is in
about
your
my
fairy
preference,
world
though.
that nobody is going to judge you? Like, do you not realize that being a porn star is not the normality today?
But do you
But you think
realize
it
that I
is.
judge you for the way that you speak to me?
Okay.
But I can judge you for
Exactly.
the way you're speaking to me too.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
So
it's
what's your
pointless.
point?
My point is that I think fundamentally you
Do you even know
guys.
what fundamentally means?
Yes.
That was so mean.
And that was mean. That shows your character more than it shows mine.
Your character already
Fundamentally,
being
let me
shown.
speak. Don't cut me off.
Nobody cut you off.
You did. Fundamentally, and you made fun of me. Fundamentally, I think that people on this panel have a different opinion on what morally correct means than me.
Okay,
I just
hold on.
think
No,
that's
no, no, no,
fine.
hold on. Let me come in really quick. Let's try to move away from the discussion of like, it's veered a little bit away from dating. Yes, there's a dispute about what's morally correct. However, if I can try to stick it to what I think the central thing about this conversation is our position is that if you are engaged in creating this kind of adult content, there are going to be men, perhaps a majority of men, that are going to find that unsuitable in a partner and would not pursue you for long-term serious relationship and or marriage. So we can have a discussion about, well, what's moral and what's not, but ultimately bringing it back to dating, men do not want to get involved with, generally speaking, I would say most men do not want to get involved with women who are engaged in sex work.
No, I agree, and I'm saying I don't want to get involved with those men either. So
Cool. And then, but I do want to address one of the points you made, and you said that you judge men who are sexually inexperienced.
yeah.
So men who are
Well, saying that like I wouldn't pick those men.
right, but do you think it's wrong for men to not want to date women who are promiscuous or who have a high body
No, it's
count
duality.
or who engage? But I think the key difference though is, and I would say it's kind of the norm if women would not want to date a guy who's sexually experienced. However, when a guy doesn't want to date a woman who is sexually experienced, and proxy for promiscuity, proxy for high body count, proxy for doing adult content, that's somehow wrong. That we have a preference when it comes to something that you have that's in your control. However, women will disqualify men who can't get laid, who have difficulty developing relationships with women, which to some degree is outside of their control. So you said you don't like men who they lack sexual experience, but that's kind of out of their control to some degree. Whereas if you have a lot of sexual experience, that's 100% in your control. So I would argue it's less fair to judge a man based on that than to judge a woman based on her promiscuity or her body count.
I don't agree with that because like I want the man who is like confident enough to go out and be sexually promiscuous and like learn about his body and learn what he likes and dislikes. I don't want to be the person that he like learns about himself through. I want to come together and like already know.
So you want a guy who's promiscuous or
Well,
has,
yeah,
like,
I want a
capacity?
guy that is like sexually there, that's not like sexually inadequate.
Okay.
Like I enjoy sex. I'm very horny and like I want a man that like is the same way.
Okay.
So then if he gave you all of that, you still wouldn't be loyal to him though.
But again, our definitions of loyalty are different because like the way I view sex for work, I think that's just work.
You do realize that you have more sexual experience than overwhelming
Yeah, I
majority
have
of
over
men.
100 bodies.
That's why we date porn stars.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what
100
I sort of
That's why you
made.
date porn stars? That's what you said?
Yeah.
So,
I keep
so your only pool of dating is
No,
other porn stars?
I've never dated a porn star.
That's my preferred pool of dating. But also like my boyfriend, I met him on Tinder. Like we were friends for 2 years before we started dating and I approached him.
Look, when it comes to dating, right, you got to understand that working in the sex industry is still a scarlet letter and always will be to a self-respecting man.
Well,
Do you know what a scarlet letter is?
Do you know what a self-respecting man is?
No, like literally, I was asking an actual question.
Because that's a movie. And a book.
Anyways, I don't even think they're pushing back all that much on the whole realizing that because you're engaged in this kind of stuff that you are narrowing your pool of potential partners because there are just some men that would not want to pursue you for a romantic or sexual relationship. So, yeah, I don't know. But, and look, there's women, there's women who there's definitely a lot of women that don't want to date me because I'm doing this dating podcast. I have some hot takes. Like, it is what it is. I'm not upset about it. It is what it is. Like,
But there's also
I
women that
accept
would
it.
love to date you.
There's
Cheeks.
There's also women that would
we
love to
said it
date
at the same
you.
time.
Why are you beckoning? Why are you gesturing at Layla?
Wait, what? Sorry.
Oh, he just said there were women because of this podcast
No,
that
I mean,
would not
I'm-
love to date him, but like.
But I
Well,
mean,
yes, there
the-
are.
the
there
exact
are women.
opposite happens
Trust me,
too.
I get the DMs. There are definitely some women that do not. Maybe they secretly do. I don't know, but there are definitely some
Yeah,
good DMs.
I'd say it benefits me. Because a lot of the women who disagree with me end up liking me.
But I feel
So-
like you're a little like I come in sometimes with some like
Same.
ridiculous shit takes, you know, and you're a little more level-headed. I think. You know?
Well, that's because having conversations like this, you know, studying psychology, you try to understand why people do what they do as